Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics. So the winner for the poll for today's video was about the tug of war going on in the cabinet caused by Brexit. So let's summarise our current position. 1. If we don't agree to participate in European elections, the EU's position is that we leave on April the 12th, next Friday. 2. Most MPs seem to be against the EU elections. Brexiteers don't want them, of course, because they don't want to be in the EU. But even some Remainers don't want them because they fear it will return a lot of very Eurosceptic MPs. 3. There is an emergency council meeting to discuss the UK's proposal for a further extension. In order to consider it, Theresa May must submit it to them before that date, so Tuesday the 9th at the latest. 4. There are some leaders in the EU Council who do not want this process carrying on, and if they believe no deal is inevitable, they will not be in favour of any extension because they'd rather it happen sooner rather than later, regardless of whether we agree to elections or not. 5. Parliament has until Monday the 8th to agree a credible way forward in order for the Prime Minister to submit the proposal before the Council meeting. 6. Theresa May's plan is to bring her deal for a vote one more time this week. She can't just bring it before MPs again as it is, so she has to change it in some way. And 7, if we fail to find a parliamentary majority for anything, and yesterday wasn't a good sign, and we don't agree to take part in EU elections, we will leave the EU on Friday the 12th with no deal. Now, this is not the legal default, as some people report, but it is the political default. And politics always trumps law, economics, anything which requires expertise, quite frankly. There will, of course, be court cases in this event, but I don't see how that would stop it. So against this background, Cabinet is currently at war. In a quite deliberate policy, Theresa May arranged her Cabinet to be split right down the middle between Remainers and Brexiteers. The intention was to encourage compromise, the reality was to encourage intransigence. Naturally, this gave the balance of power to the Brexiteers, as she not only gave them an amount of influence disproportionate to their numbers in the parliamentary party, but some of the Remainers are what you would call pragmatic Remainers. They are not pro-European. They just accept that the UK is stuffed outside the EU. Now, I would say that Cabinet have only been held together due to May championing a withdrawal agreement that could literally go any way with Brexit, from almost complete isolation from the EU to almost full integration with them. But Cabinet hasn't been held together. Not only has Theresa May suffered record defeats in the Commons, in both size and number, but also record resignations from her government, including her Cabinet. In terms of ministerial positions, there are about 10% of junior ministerial positions completely unfilled because nobody will do them. The Cabinet itself is like the rotating door of Trump's administration. But there was always going to come a time when the Conservative government were going to have to decide on a path. That path either has to move towards the soft Brexit side or more towards the hard Brexit side. And that is what Cabinet is currently bristling over. Remain ministers have said that they will resign if May takes them out of the EU without a deal. Brexiteer ministers have said they'll resign if she softens that agreement at all. If we take them at their word, then her government collapses either way. So it seemed up until now that maybe May was genuinely wanting to get her agreement passed, of course, but would potentially accept no deal to keep her party together. This is because the moderate majority, though they don't approve of it, have not until now threatened her if they don't get her way. They've basically behaved themselves. Now that battle lines have been drawn, the Prime Minister might calculate that the best way to avoid the split in her party is for her party not to be in government, or for the risk of it at least to bring them together. So as such, she may decide, as there have been hints threatening it, that a general election is in the best interests of what I would now laughingly call Tory cohesion. Now, there has been a suggestion that if Theresa May's deal doesn't get passed this week, that she will ask Parliament to trigger a general election. The hard Brexiteers, of course, will hope that she still refuses to hold EU elections, and so that would force us to crash out with no deal. They will certainly keep up the pressure to do so. And that's not just my observation. One of the Conservative MPs in the debates last night said as much. Now that means if Parliament don't vote overwhelmingly for something that prevents that, they are almost out of time to do anything. Philip Hammond, the Chancellor, and a minister on the Remain side, is urging the Prime Minister to attach a confirmatory vote to her agreement along the lines of the Kyle motion from last night. Now, that would solve the problem of the test of change. Remember, she can't just put her deal up for a vote again without any change to it. It has to be amended in some way. So we have half the cabinet insisting that May either gets her unchanged deal through, which is impossible, or accepts no deal, which is what they actually want. The other half of the cabinet insists that May does whatever is necessary to avoid no deal, and a confirmatory vote is emerging as the only way to achieve that. So from imagining myself in Theresa May's position, and bear in mind this is my logic on the situation, not necessarily hers, I would look at it this way. So half your cabinet wants no deal Brexit, but they will accept your deal. That's why they're ministers, they're accepting that, they're sort of voting for it. The other half don't want Brexit at all, but they will accept your deal because, again, that's why they're ministers. So you think to yourself, okay, that's why she has it in her head beyond all reason. That's why she's wanting to get her deal through, because as she sees it, keeps them both together. In reality, it doesn't, because the next stage is then to negotiate a more final settlement with the EU. And that means, again, moving from a neutral position. But, you know, that's certainly not going to be her problem now. But at the time, she would have thought it was. So she thinks to herself this time. So think of scenarios. Her deal doesn't go through. What does she do? If she does nothing and we go out with no deal, her government goes down because half her ministers quit. They threaten to quit. Let's say she believes them. Because she certainly hasn't been calling bluff so far, has she? So let's say she says, right, you're right, we mustn't crash out with no deal. The EU are not going to allow us another extension unless we, 1, fight European elections. So we have to accept that. And 2, come up with a credible plan. So people's vote it is. So let's say she does that. So that keeps half the cabinet happy. But the other half, no, they'll go as well. So she's screwed either way. So then she makes the calculation. The problem here is, because try and picture the mirror in the Commons. You've also got the Labour Party. The Labour Party is also split. It's not even down the middle. The vast majority of backbenchers do not approve of Jeremy Corbyn's leadership. That's why it's slim pickings. If you wonder why his front bench is full of such muppets, and the only decent ones in there seem to be Hammond and Starmer, and it's purely because the rest of them, he refuses to work with them, and so they refuse to work with him. But why are those divisions not constantly being exposed? Because they're in opposition. Jeremy Corbyn can only actually do so much as leader of the opposition. There are things he can do. There's only so much. Theresa May is the leader of the ruling party. There's a lot she can do. And there's a lot she is doing. And so the divisions are made more manifest. So she identifies the problem as being that they're in government. So the problem for the Conservative Party at the moment, her calculation is they're in government. What do you do about that? General election. And she has hinted at it. So she tries to put a deal up for a vote again. Either it gets rejected by the Speaker or it gets rejected by Parliament, in which case she says, well, the only way through this is a general election. Jeremy Corbyn might have called a vote of no confidence if she didn't anyway, but she just, she takes it out of his hands and she just says, do you know what, I think we should have a general election. They'll agree. Enough of her own MPs will back her because that's what you do, and we'll have a general election. So then the trick is, does she then go, as a lot of Parliament will want them to say, right, you go and tell them that we're going to we want a general election, we're going to fight the European elections. What if she says no? Or you tell them, right, or you say we're going to revoke Article 50, and then she refuses to do that. You need a large majority of Parliament to do that. I think she's still thinking of herself, trigger a general election, we crash out, it's not my fault, I'm off anyway, because she's not going to fight the next general election. What a mess. What a mess. But that is the situation that we have right now. It could be that some of those ministers are bluffing, but she doesn't believe they are. I'm not sure I believe they are. And we're going to find out by the end of this week, or certainly we're going to find out by next Tuesday exactly what's going on there, because that's when she's got to submit her proposal to the EU. And even though the EU won't have made its decision by then, we can probably have a fair guess depending on what's proposed. So I hope you found that video interesting. If you did, don't forget to click the like button, subscribe for further content, click the bell notification as well. Until next time, I'll see you later.